Hey, before we dive deeper, a quick like on this video really helps the channel grow. It only takes a second, but it means the world to us. Thanks for the support. You're amazing. My name is Lucas. I'm 26, born and raised in Atlanta. I used to think of myself as someone with direction, someone who made lists, plans, goals. But sometime after turning 25, all that clarity started to blur. I wasn't unhappy, but I wasn't alive either. So I booked a solo trip to Fez, Morocco. Not because it was on some bucket list, but because the photo of a blue-tiled alley came up on my feed one day, and it looked like a place where something could happen. Something unscripted, something real. I arrived during one of those in-between seasons. Spring was barely waking up, and the air still held onto winter's chill in the mornings. The Medina was a labyrinth. Twisting alleys, stalls stacked with spices, pottery, fabrics that shimmered like oil spills. I'd wander for hours, my camera dangling at my side, capturing colors and strangers, silence and noise. I told myself I came for the photographs, but I think I was just looking for something that made me feel again. And then I saw her. It was my third afternoon. I'd wandered into the courtyard of a mosque that sat quietly on the edge of the old town. It wasn't the touristy kind. No selfie sticks, no tour guides, just the soft sound of water trickling from a marble fountain in the center, the scent of mint tea in the air, and the sun slanting perfectly against centuries-old mosaic tile. She was sitting on the far side with two other women. Modest dress, deep red hijab. Her posture was composed, but relaxed, like someone at ease with stillness. Her eyes scanned a book in her lap, but occasionally lifted, and once they met mine. It wasn't a long look, but it stayed with me. I raised my camera, intending to frame the arch behind her. The light was golden. The pattern was perfect, but as I clicked the shutter, she looked up again, this time directly into the lens. And she stood. She crossed the courtyard toward me, not hurried, not angry, just calm, purposeful. I lowered my camera, realizing only then how close I'd let her get. "Delete it," she said. Her voice was soft, but her eyes were unwavering. "It wasn't about you," I said quickly. "Exactly. You shouldn't take what you don't understand." She held her gaze on me, like she was studying something much deeper than my face. "Sorry," I muttered, thumb already flicking through my camera to find the image. "You're right. Most people aren't that easy to convince," she said. "Most people don't approach strangers so gracefully." That made her smile. Just a little. That wasn't grace. That was restraint. I laughed. She didn't. "I'm Lucas," I said, holding out my hand. She looked at it, but didn't take it. Then she glanced back at the fountain. "It's a mosque courtyard," she said. "Not a cafe." I let my hand drop. "Right. I'll remember that." She started to turn, then paused. "You want to understand this place?" "I do." "Then start by observing, not capturing." And just like that, she was gone. Back to her spot. Back to her book. But my world hadn't quite settled since she'd walked into it. I didn't go back the next day. I told myself it was because I didn't want to seem intrusive. Truth was, I didn't want to hope she'd be there and be disappointed if she wasn't. But on the fourth day, I returned. She was there. This time alone. I sat on the edge of the fountain, camera untouched. I didn't look at her directly, just listened to the space between us, the quiet hum of water and warm afternoon air. Minutes passed. "You remembered," she said. I looked over. She was smiling. Small. Controlled. "I observe now," I replied. She closed her book. "What are you observing today?" A woman reading poetry and pretending not to notice the guy across from her. That made her laugh. Real this time. "Not poetry," she said. "History. And illusion architecture." "Well, that's poetic in its own way." "You like words, don't you?" "I like meaning. Words are the only way I know how to reach it." She nodded, thoughtful. "What else do you like?" "Photos. Mornings. People who don't smile easily but mean it when they do." Her eyes softened. "That's oddly specific. So are you." There was silence then, the kind that could have held 1,000 different futures. "I'm Amira," she said finally. Her name felt like a secret I'd been waiting to be told. We met like that for the next 3 days. In the courtyard. Always a quiet start. Always a little more revealed. She told me she studied philosophy, that she loved stories but distrusted love, that she admired discipline but hated when it was mistaken for coldness. People think modesty is weakness, she said, or silence is submission. But sometimes it's just clarity, the choice to not be loud. I listened more than I spoke. Because Amira didn't just talk, she revealed things in pieces, like a mosaic forming one tile at a time. She never touched me, never sat too close. But her eyes, they were always closer than they should have been. We kept meeting like that, always in that same courtyard, always with time stretching long and unhurried between us. She spoke more now, sometimes lightly, sometimes not. She told me about her family, a tight-knit circle of brothers and cousins. Her father was a merchant, her mother, a poet no one read outside the home. She studied philosophy at university and taught younger girls on weekends. I was raised to think in patterns, she told me one afternoon. God above, family first, honor always. There's beauty in it, but also walls. I always enjoyed listening to her, because Amira had so much to say and maybe just met the perfect person to say it to. She revealed, piece by piece, like a slow swirling calligraphy. You had to wait for the meaning to appear. She was graceful in everything. Even when she laughed, and she did, eventually, it came like a breeze brushing the corner of your face. Brief, unpredictable, but warm enough to linger. One day, she asked why I came to Fez. Photography, I said, but I think I really came because I was numb. Back home, life felt like a loop I couldn't get out of. I needed to feel something again, even if I didn't know what. She tilted her head. And have you? I looked at her, the way the afternoon light danced on her scarf, how the edge of her cheek curved into the smallest dimple. Some things, yes, I said. Some things, I'm just starting to feel. She nodded, eyes searching mine for something unsaid. You speak carefully, she murmured. Is that good or bad? It means you think before you feel. I'm the opposite. I feel before I understand. There was a quiet ache behind her words. I recognized it because I carried the same weight before. That longing to be known for more than what people expected of you. That day we spoke about love. Not directly, but around it, like two people circling a flame, unsure whether to feed it or run from it. I've never really been in love, I said. Or, if I have, it was the kind that only one person knew about. Unspoken love, she said. The kind that lives in the pauses. Exactly. She looked toward the sky, then, watching a bird glide overhead. I never liked love stories, she said softly. They felt noisy, messy, unreal. But then again, maybe I just didn't believe someone could see me and not want to fix me. Maybe you haven't met someone who sees you as already whole. Her eyes flicked back to mine, unreadable for a beat. Do you? She asked. I'm trying to, I said. Every day I sit here, I try. Later that week, I arrived earlier than usual. She was already there again. It became our rhythm, like the space was waiting for us. She was humming when I approached, fingers tracing the edge of the tiled bench absent-mindedly. Her scarf today was a deep navy, and I realized then she never wore the same color twice. You're early, I said. So are you. I didn't want to miss you. She gave me that half smile, the one she only ever offered with her eyes. We sat, talked about books, then music, then dreams. She confessed she once wanted to be a filmmaker. My father said it was no job for a woman who valued herself. And do you? Every day. But sometimes I wonder if I've only learned to value what others praised in me. There was silence then. Not awkward, just heavy, like truth had filled the space. I love my life, she said eventually. I love my God. But sometimes I wonder what would feel like to not be so tied to what's expected of me. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. I just looked at her. Too long. Too openly. And that was when it happened. She exhaled, looked down, then slowly turned her face to mine. If you keep looking at me like that, she said quietly, her voice like wind through silk, I will break every morality in me and kiss you. She didn't laugh. She didn't blush. She just said it and waited. I didn't kiss her. I didn't even know if I could, if I would ever be worthy enough to taste her lips. Everything about her was unlike the women I had known all my life. She looked like a secret, sacred, untouchable. The way she wrapped herself in her modesty only made her more magnetic, like a mystery that could never be unraveled, only revered. She looked away then, back to the fountain's slow ripple. "I shouldn't have said that," she whispered. "I'm glad you did." She stood, pulled her scarf tighter, and nodded. "Good night, Lucas." "Good night, Amira." And she walked away, graceful, unwavering, quiet. But everything inside me was loud, because in that moment, in that one sliver of tension between restraint and desire, I realized I didn't feel like a tourist anymore. I felt chosen, and that terrified me more than anything. If you made it this far into the video, take a second and ask yourself, why haven't you liked it yet? Just one click can make a huge difference. It helps this video reach more people, and honestly, we need that support. We need you. Thanks for watching and being part of this journey. Since she made that statement, I will break every morality in me and kiss you. Something shifted, not between us exactly, but inside her. It was as if Amira had cracked open the door and was now trying, unsuccessfully, to close it again. She hadn't become distant, just careful. Her words had weight, her glances hesitation, but the softness underneath, it was growing louder. It had been 2 weeks since I first saw her in that courtyard. We no longer met just by the fountain. Sometimes we met near the bazaar, where the scent of roasted almonds and orange peel filled the air. Other times, we strolled through quiet parts of the Medina, where the walls were 100 shades of history, and the streets twisted like questions with no answers. She became my guide, to Fez, yes, but also to understanding the texture of her world. "You see that door?" she said one afternoon, pointing to a small, beautifully carved wooden frame tucked between 2 homes. "That's not a front entrance. It's the women's door. Women have separate doors. In old homes, yes. Privacy is a form of dignity, and you don't find that limiting." She smiled at me without answering. Instead, she asked, "Do you know why the tiles on the walls stop just before the ceiling?" I shook my head. "Because only God is perfect. The ceiling is left bare to remind us that beauty should always bow to humility." I had never thought about architecture as a spiritual act. That day, we ended up at a tiny cafe, sipping mint tea from small glass cups. She pulled her scarf loose once we sat inside, revealing the curve of her jawline and the soft line of her neck. I noticed the way her collarbone moved when she laughed. We talked about books again. I told her how I used to write poetry in high school, poorly and mostly to impress girls. "I bet it worked," she teased, stirring her tea slowly. "Only once," I said. "She dumped me 2 weeks later for a guy who played drums." Amira laughed softly. "I never dated in school. Or after. It was never part of the plan." I tilted my head. "Did you have a plan?" She looked out the window. "I thought I did. Study, serve, marry well. But lately, I've started asking, who wrote that plan? And why was I so quick to obey it?" There was a rawness in her voice, like peeling away the layers cost her something. I didn't respond. Not right away. Instead, I watched her, not like a man watching a woman, but like a soul realizing it's not alone in the world. I understood the fear behind that question. I'd asked it too, in my own language, in my own loneliness. We paid and walked quietly for a while. Then, as we passed a street stall selling painted ceramics, I saw her eyes pause on a deep blue bowl with tiny golden leaves etched into its center. I bought it. She tried to protest, weakly, then held it like it was sacred. "No one's ever gotten me something just because I looked at it," she whispered. "It looked better when you looked at it," I said. She didn't say anything after that, but her fingers brushed mine when I handed her the bag, and she didn't pull away. Later that evening, we sat on a stone bench at the edge of the city, where the sunset made the hills look like flames in slow motion. We talked about love. It started lightly. I asked, "So what does Amira think about romance?" She smirked. "Amira thinks it's dramatic. Is that a nice way of saying you don't believe in it?" She exhaled. "It always felt exaggerated, like a story people told themselves to feel less alone." I nodded slowly. "And now?" She didn't finish the sentence, but she didn't need to. I saw in the way her eyes lingered just a moment longer. I wanted to tell her I loved her. I didn't. Not because I wasn't sure, but because some truths don't need announcing. They just need space. She stood and brushed off her skirt. Walk you to your riad? I offered her my arm. She didn't take it, but she walked beside me, close enough that I could hear her breath when the street got quiet. When we reached the front of the riad, I turned to her. She didn't move. I'm going to miss you more than I should, she said. I smiled. Then I'll come back before you can forget me. Her lips parted, but no words came. Then finally, don't come back if you plan to stay a stranger. It was the most honest thing she'd ever said to me. She turned to leave, the ceramic bowl still in her hands. I stood there long after she disappeared into the alleys of Fez, feeling like something sacred had been handed to me, and I didn't know how to hold it without trembling. I had been dreading this day, not in the dramatic way that movies teach us to. No storm clouds rolling in, no final kiss under pouring rain. Just that quiet kind of dread that sits at the back of your throat, making everything taste like goodbye. The sun hadn't even crested over the rooftops when I slipped out of my riad, camera left behind, bag already packed. I didn't need souvenirs. I had her voice in my chest, her laughter in my memory, and something I didn't know what to call burning under my ribs. We met at the courtyard fountain one last time. She was already seated, hands folded in her lap, scarf wrapped tighter than usual. Maybe the morning chill. Maybe something else. I didn't ask. I just sat beside her, not too close, not too far. The same delicate distance we'd danced around since that first conversation. The square was quiet. The vendors hadn't arrived. The calls to prayer hadn't begun. It was just us. Stillness. The kind that feels holy. For a while, we said nothing. Then, she whispered, "You look tired." I didn't sleep. She smiled faintly. Me neither. The fountain gurgled gently between us, its rhythm the only sound brave enough to interrupt the moment. I turned to her slowly, committing every feature of her to memory. The slope of her nose, the shadow of her lashes, the way her lips pressed together when she was thinking too hard. I didn't think this would be so hard, I admitted. She didn't look at me. Instead, she spoke to the fountain. I used to think love was weakness, she said. A soft thing, a distraction. She finally turned, eyes steady. But you made it feel strong, like something sacred. I swallowed. Her words hung between us like incense smoke. Light but heavy, holy but dangerous. I don't know what this is, I said honestly. I just know I've never felt this before, and I don't want to leave it behind like it was just a moment. She nodded, eyes brimming but not breaking. Then don't, she said. Take it with you. All of it. I reached out, gently cupping her hand. Not pulling, not gripping, just holding. Her fingers were cool, softer than I remembered. We leaned in, slowly, forehead to forehead. Not a kiss. Just breath shared in the quiet. Just closeness. Just ache. She closed her eyes. I did too. I could have stayed like that for hours, pretending the world didn't require us to move. But time has never cared about love. When we finally pulled back, her eyes were glassy. "You were my first real love," I whispered. She exhaled softly, like I'd given her something fragile. "And you were the first man I ever let close to the truth of me." A pause. Then she added, "And the last, at least for a long while." We both knew why. Because what we had wasn't built for this place. And she was tethered to a world that didn't make room for desires like ours. But still she let me in. And that was more than I had ever expected. We stood slowly. Her hand slipped from mine like silk. "I'll come back," I said, voice low but certain. "For you." She didn't ask when. She didn't ask how. She just looked at me with those knowing, impossibly deep eyes and said, "Don't come back a stranger." I nodded. Then, finally, after weeks of unspoken longing, she stepped forward and placed her palm on my chest, right above my heart. And that was enough. No kiss, no declaration. Just a sacred touch between two people who found something real in a place built on history and silence. I turned to leave. Didn't look back. Couldn't. Because if I'd seen her standing there, framed by the morning light, holding the bowl I gave her like a piece of me she refused to put down, I might have stayed. And staying, for now, wasn't a promise I could keep. I boarded the plane hours later, surrounded by strangers, but more full than I had ever been. No selfies, no postcards, just memories etched into the folds of my spirit. She never broke her morals, but she broke my heart wide open, just by letting me in.